Thank you again. I'm going to have Duncan put up a slide here. I appreciate your compassion and your condolences. Our parrot, we've had for 15 and a half years, died last Monday. Joey was a Quaker parrot, so she was only about 5 inches from the top of her head to her rump, and then she, of course, had those long tail feathers. But I appreciate, like I said, the help. It's people talk about the fur babies. We had feather baby. So, yeah, it's been a rough week, but and she had all kinds of health challenges, which I think is one of the reasons she was brought into our lives, because we had your average pet owner probably wouldn't have wanted to deal with having to give a bird shots and all sorts of other things. So she, about 2 years ago, our veterinarian in Indianapolis said, well, I don't think she'll make it to the end of the year, and hey, she made it until last Monday. So thanks again for that. We appreciate it. So let's do a virtual group hug. Well, today is Earth Day. It was first celebrated in 1970. So it's been going 48 years now. And it was actually proposed at the 1969 UNESCO conference by American peace activist John McConnell, who was actually from Iowa. But someone else was there at that summit, and that was Wisconsin Democratic Senator Gaylord Nelson. And he liked the idea, so he brought it to the United States. And it was an interesting, of course, for those of us who were living in the 60s and all that, that sudden realization that, wait a minute here, the things that we're doing aren't exactly enriching the earth. Even as a small kid there, the late 50s, early 60s, it was kind of like, so this smoke just kind of goes up into the air and will disappear? I mean, it just didn't make sense to me, especially when I learned about terrariums and stuff like that. It's kind of like, something's wrong here. And so that we kind of brought it into consciousness that we got to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. I wanted to share with you the words of a great man. In 1852, the United States government put out word to the Suquamish tribe in the Seattle area that they wanted to buy their land. Now, they were led by Chief Seattle, and Chief Seattle had the wisdom of forewarning. He had heard what had happened, in the rest of the country as European settlers were coming in and devastating, the tribes and all. So he actually dictated a response that was translated into a marvelous letter to President Millard Fillmore. Remember, this is 1852. Now, Millard Fillmore, no relation to Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, but kind of take a look at Chief Seattle and just imagine him saying this to President Millard Fillmore and the rest of us Americans. The president in Washington sends word that he wishes to buy our land. But how can you buy or sell the land, or buy or sell the sky? The idea is strange to us. If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you buy them? Every part of the earth is sacred to my people, every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every meadow, every humming insect, all are holy in the memory and experience of my people. We know the sap which courses through the trees as we know the blood that courses through our veins. We are a part of the earth, and it is a part of us. The perfumed flowers are our sisters. The bear, the deer, the great eagle. These are our brothers. The rocky crest, the dew in the meadow, the body heat of the pony and man all belong to the same family. The shining water that moves in the streams and rivers is not just water, but the blood of our ancestors. If we sell you our land, you must remember that it is sacred. Each glossy reflection on the clear waters of our lakes tells of events and memories in the life of my people. The water's murmur is the voice of my father's father. The rivers are our brothers. They quench our thirst. They carry our canoes and feed our children. So you must give the rivers the kindness that you would give any other brother. If we sell you our land, remember that the air is precious to us. The air shares its spirit with all of the life it supports. The wind that gave our grandfather his first breath also received his last sigh. The wind also gives our children the spirit of life. So if we sell our land, you must keep it apart and sacred. It's a place where man can go to taste the wind that is sweetened by the meadow flowers. Will you teach your children what we have taught our children? That the earth is our mother. What befalls the earth befalls all of the sons of the earth. This we know. The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites us all. Man did not weave the web of life. He merely is a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. One thing we know, our God is also your God. The earth is precious to God and will harm the earth, to harm the earth is to heap contempt on its creator. Your destiny is a mystery to us. What will happen when the buffalo are all slaughtered, the wild horses tamed? What will happen when the secret corners of the forest are heavy with the scent of many men, and the view of the ripe hills is blotted by talking wires? Where will the thicket be? Gone. Where will the eagle be? Gone. And what is to say goodbye to the swift pony and then try to hunt? The end of living, the beginning of survival. When the last red man has vanished in this wilderness, and his memory is only a shadow of a cloud moving across the prairie, will these shores and forests still be here? Will there be any of the spirit of my people left? We love this earth as a newborn loves its mother's heartbeat. So if we sell you our land, love it as we have loved it. Care for it as we have cared for it. Hold in your mind the memory of this land as it is when you receive it. Preserve the land for all children and love it as God loves us. As we are part of the land, you too are a part of the land. The earth is precious to us, and we hope that it is precious to you too. One thing we know, there is only one God. No man, be he red man or white man, can be apart. We are all brothers, after all. We've inherited this Western tradition of feeling like we have to have dominion over the earth. Rather than recognizing, as Chief Seattle says here, that we're part of the earth. We come out of the earth. We're the eyes of the earth. We're the ears of the earth. We have the hands of the earth. And it is up to us to work collaboratively with this earth. I've heard sometimes that this Western tradition of, just taming the land and all of that is biblical, but even in the Bible, Genesis 2nd chapter, 7th verse, then the Lord God formed man of the dirt from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. So that doesn't sound like, we're just tossed in there or dropped down by aliens, as some people believe. We're part of this. And we've had this awakening, especially over these last 50 of 100 years, of like, wow, wait a minute here. And of course, the inconvenient truth and the carbon dioxide and everything that had been put into the atmosphere. Nature has a natural balance to it. Ecclesiastes, 3rd chapter. Some of you will recognize the verses from the Bible as verses of a song that we heard long ago. For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die. A time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, a time to heal. A time to break down, a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. But these next couple verses didn't make it into the song. What gain has the worker from his toil? I have seen the business that God has given to the sons of the earth to be busy with. He has made everything in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's mind. Yet man cannot find out what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for them to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Also, that is God's gift to man, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure at his toil. It seems to have become almost expected that when I ask someone, how are you? And they'll say, busy. It seems like we've all learned how to work hard, but have we learned how to relax hard? Have we had a chance to recognize that we have inhalation, but we also have exhalation, and the exhalation has to come for the next inhalation. So do we learn how to recharge the batteries? And frankly, guys, I haven't mastered this myself. I've recognized, and I was talking to the board on Thursday night, I've really got to watch it, because since we started here together as a spiritual family at the beginning of the year, I haven't taken probably enough time to relax, and I got to be more careful about that. But we live in a world that does have polarized energy. Here, there, day, night, ebb and flow. Chinese call this the yin and the yang. Even our own bodies, are building up and breaking down regularly. There's anabolism and catabolism, which I never heard of, but it turns out these are the two things that make up metabolism. And every 7 years, the cells in our body are completely replaced. So perhaps it's our own vision that's keeping our body looking the way it is right now, and I've just got to work on that because I just don't particularly want. But and I think we all find faults with our body. But as we look at, again, nature and animals, our dogs, our cats, our birds, how much of the time of the day do they spend resting, and how much of the time of the day do they spend in action? I remember Carla and I went to the San Diego Wild Animal Park, which is run by their zoo authority, but it's separate from the zoo. It's just a big area, which is like, almost like the Sahara, and they got some trams where you drive through, and you see all of these magnificent animals, in a natural habitat. And as we got to the lions and the tigers, they were all asleep in the middle of the day. And the tram driver said, it ends up these cats, sleep probably 20 hours of the day. And a lot of people said, well, see with their own house cats how much they rest. He goes, but in those other 4 hours, they put in a full day of work. And I know we're told from, Native Americans and Chief Seattle and all the things that were written down about them before we stole their culture away from them, that they would generally work for 3 or 4 hours a day. The young adults would have children, and the grandparents would take care of the children because they were wiser and, of course, didn't quite have the energy and the stamina. So, the other people would go out and do the hunting or the gathering or the planting or the reaping. And from the sounds of it, I think that's something we could all buy into. In the 15th chapter of Genesis, we're told that Lot is told to escape Sodom and Gomorrah before God wreaks fire and brimstone upon the two cities. But as they left, Lot's wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. This is symbolic of her just looking back and getting too caught up in the memories and wanting things to be the way they used to be. She had a crystallization or chemicalization, as they call it in Unity. And a lot of us get too caught up in wanting things to be the way they always were, or especially with Earth Day, I was thinking about how so many of us get caught up in what we're told is happening to the Earth and don't see any hope for it. We're told about, of course, global climate change, and you hear these depictions about what may happen in 50 or 100 years. And a lot of people are kind of like, well, I guess we're past the tipping point sort of thing. I don't believe that. I believe that we can open our mind to the divine mind and get these divine ideas, as I've said over and over and over again. We just need to believe that they're there and then be willing to express the ones that are right for us. And I believe that we have within the divine mind the answers as to what we need to do to not only heal ourselves but to heal the earth. The astonishing thing is that we are regularly discovering ways to heal the earth. I remember when Carla and I lived in Chicago, still back, 20, 30 years ago. There's a city north of Chicago called Waukegan, and there's a harbor there. And there had been a company that made electric transformers, especially like the old barrel ones that used to be on telephone poles. And part of the manufacturing process was to put PCBs, this toxic chemical, leaked out and contaminated the harbor. And there was big news because scientists had discovered a microbe that eats PCBs and leaves no waste behind. And scientists are finding basically every toxic chemical in the world, there's a natural process to reverse the toxicity. And of course, look at what we're discovering about, wind and solar and how, and the prices have come down to the point we have the answer, to our petroleum dependency. What we need is the willpower to be willing to move forward with these things. It's no secret that, Congress doesn't seem to be receptive to this, and we know why. So we need to be able to put the pressure on. But more importantly, some people feel defeated because they feel like there's only so much we can do. But what we can do is we can brainstorm with each other about the world we want to see created. If we believe that we're co-creators with God, then we should be able to, we can co-create a world that is more pleasant than the vision that's being set out for us. So I feel like it's important for us to say, no. I'm not going to believe that this world is going to be wiped out in 100 years by global climate change. I believe that we have the answers. We don't know what they are right now. We might not see how possibly these things could happen. How could we possibly, clean the air and remove the all of the, the carbon dioxide, that's causing these effects. But there is a way when there seems to be no way. So can we put our energy, and our thoughts and our prayers out there and say, okay, God, guide us. What do we need to do? What do I need to do as an individual? What can I do? Which ways can I change my lifestyle? And beyond just the eradication of the pollution of the earth, we've got other things that are being demonstrated, like new approaches to economy, so that rather than feeling like we need to always have growth of our stock portfolio, that, hey, we're here because we want to create things for each other, and that we can all have a balanced life, and we can have balance, in our economy, rather than having the lopsidedness that we're seeing now. So, I'm going to have Duncan go ahead and put up a slide. Give you a sense of some of the things I want you to take away from today. We are from the earth, as Chief Seattle said. We don't have to have dominion over the earth. We just need to be good stewards of the earth. We need to find our balance point, so we as individuals are taking good care of ourselves, and then in turn we can take good care of the earth. Inhale, exhale, doing and being. Like I mentioned before, we need to exhale before we can inhale, but we need to do, and then we also need to be. Find a balance so that we don't find ourselves burning out or creating some illness in our life because we have error thoughts or error feelings. Every 7 years, we have a new body. So, what's your body going to look like in 7 years? Pray to fix the earth, and by that I mean, let's put out a vision that, okay, we'll get the answers, what we need to do to have this earth become new, because God makes all things new. Our closing story is from Steve Hartman of the CBS Evening News.